So this is the dollar bill prospect. It's a lovely September morning here at the dollar bill claim, which is supposed to have some samarskite. So we parked up close to the pegmatite, or what we think is pegmatite up there, and walked around in one of the minor washes there, and get a lot of radioactivity, which is promising, but nothing localized. So I decided to come down the hill to the main wash where it crosses the road here and see if I have any better luck. So my friends Phil and Andre's been in one of my earlier videos. This is first time out for Phil, and everybody's got their gamma dog with them. So I think we're gonna find some stuff up here, but I think I got my first real hit right here. Seems very localized. So let me just see if I can get something out of here. So this is actually in the road right above the wash. So I wasn't expecting to get anything in here, but you know, coming from downhill, interesting. So we'll get a better idea once we start surveying the area, what this, you know, where the hot spots are and stuff. And there they come. Hey Phil, did you lose Andre?
He is not that way, but I can tell him to come over here.
No, I'm sure he must have found a hot spot and got distracted.
No, I don't know. There's so many.
Come over here and tell me what you think about this spot.
Oh my gosh.
See if you can see if, of course, I'm giving you a big clue of where
the hole is.
where it might be.
But it's pretty
Put your
big.
probe right here.
Oh my, that is intense.
It's pretty localized,
Yeah.
and that's what you're looking for. So now the next thing, after I've dug a little bit, is to see if it gets hotter, or if it doesn't, maybe it's gotten cold. That means I've moved it already. Boy.
I wonder if that's what we detected in the car.
Well, there's, you know, if I found one spot here, there's probably more. So
Yeah.
I would keep looking around, because you'll probably find other spots. But whatever this is, it's not very big. Well, I think there's more than one piece here, because this is off to the side. The original hole isn't as hot. Well, there seems to be something over here. Well, we seem to have something. think I've moved something. Oh no, it may be just move this dirt a little further away. Yeah, there's something in there. This must be it here. I think I've just got a bunch of little pieces around here, probably some pieces of some arscite. Oh no, it's actually coming from below. No, I think I'm fooling myself here. Let me reset the squelch here. Well, there is something here. There it is. It's a tiny piece. Probably a tiny piece of some arscite. It's just a little guy. But that's a start. I don't know if this is some arscite. I'm just going to put it in my back pocket here. Okay. There seems to be something, either a bunch of little pieces or something bigger down here. Did you get a hit? Did you get a hit?
Yeah. It's a pretty large area, it sounds like.
Well, is it a large area or is it localized? It shouldn't be very large, it should be very localized.
I think it's a big area.
You mean it's a dispersed area?
Like maybe 8 feet?
Oh, yeah, that's dispersed.
Okay.
You're looking for something like this hole here that's very localized.
Okay.
So. There it is. Another one of these tiny little pieces. Looks exactly like the one that's in my back pocket. Just a tiny little piece of something. Looks a little... Okay. Well, maybe there's still a decent specimen in here. Or maybe I'm just chasing a bunch of little guys. Oh, that's coming from my back pocket there. No. Yeah, I have a feeling there's just a bunch of little guys in here. So I've got one here, and I've got something over here as well. Well, let's reset the squelch here. So, yeah. There we go. There it is. Okay, so this one's a little larger. It's probably twice the size, but it's still pretty tiny. Okay, well, I think it's time to move on. Come back to this hole if we get desperate, because it's definitely got some more of this stuff. I almost hate to give up on it though, when I've got such a strong signal. So maybe I'll dig over here a little bit more. You got a real localized spot?
I hope so.
You hope so, or you do?
I've never found one before, so I hope it's here.
I've got something in that dirt, but there's something even bigger down there, or just a bunch of little pieces. Let's see. There it is. Okay, so this one is a little bit larger than the last one that I found, but it's starting to look like a real crystal. Huh. Okay, so it's got a fraction down here. I'm looking to see if it's a really shiny black, but it doesn't appear to be, which makes me wonder if it's really Samarscott, maybe something else. So that's pretty cool, and I've got something else down here. So this is turning out to be a promising little spot. And if nothing else, if all I get are these little pieces, I can still XRF them to see what they are. And that's always pretty exciting when I get home. Got to be pretty small. These are hot little guys for their size. They are. There it is. Another one of these tiny little ones. Gosh. Gosh. Okay. So these two little guys, there's another one over here that was making this one look especially hot, but they were just adding together. I'm gonna go up here and check on Phil, make sure he's not on a wild goose chase. Take my dog with me. Don't go any place without the dog. You never know when you're gonna find another hot spot here where they just now let's see what you got.
I think it's right here. I got my small meter. It says 1 microsievert of gamma per hour. And then here's this thing.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you got a nice one here.
Just gotta keep digging, maybe.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you got something there. You've got something there.
Just digging up the road.
Yeah, this is off to the side. Yeah.
It is localized, right?
Oh, it's very localized.
Okay.
So yeah.
I keep trying to pick all the spoil, but
Yeah.
it's still there.
So move these big rocks here. Do you need a big chisel? Have you got a big
I got
chisel?
this. I'll dig around
Well,
it and
if
see
you have-
I can find it better.
If you can't pry those rocks up with that, I've got a chisel that
Okay.
that should work. So yeah, keep working on that hole. That's definitely a good one. So yeah, it's interesting that we're getting these hits. Makes me wonder if there's a peg up this hill here and it's coming down here. That one hot spot, but then I got another one down here I think is more promising. I don't know where Andre is, but he's missing out on the fun unless he's found himself some hot spots as well. Okay. you find it?
Just a tiny pebble, but it's definitely,
Well, if it's tiny, that means there's probably more of it in there.
yeah. It's round.
Let's see if it looks like the stuff I'm finding down here.
This thing says like 700 something online.
Huh.
Really tiny.
Yeah, it is, but
Yeah.
it's not exceptionally hot. You got something much hotter, or
Down
it could
there?
be a bunch of these
Okay.
in there. So
wonder what it
yeah, put
is.
that in your back pocket or whatever,
Okay.
or your bag.
Yeah. Cool. Hey, my first hot rock.
Yeah, congratulations. So this is really the first spot, well, it's the second spot in Arizona where I've actually found stuff. Well, third, I guess, technically speaking. There's a lot of stuff up in Kingman, at the Kingman quarry or mine up there. If you like allanite, big old chunks of allanite buried all over the place. And then I found some columbites. Actually, you see them in another video that I made in central Arizona. But this spot is only a little over an hour from Tucson, so it's very convenient. So I'm hoping that it's going to yield some stuff and be a nice locality to visit. What was that? A little one?
Yeah.
So it's about the same activity?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm finding. Is that we're finding these hot spots that are just full of these little specimens.
Yeah.
And they add up and look like a massive specimen, but they're just
Well, this one feels pretty weighty. Dense.
really.
Maybe it's
Oh.
it's so small, but it makes a
Well,
lot of
it's bigger than the last one, right?
yeah. They're
Now
all round.
This looks interesting. This looks really, it almost looks translucent.
Really?
Yeah. That seems pretty hot compared to the last one.
Like another 3 microsievert on the gamma only.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, see, if you wash this off with water, it looks pretty interesting. It's kind of translucent looking.
I'll put it in the bag.
Oh, yeah.
There, we got a whole creek here. Are you finding little ones too?
Yes. Yes, I'm chasing down these little ones, and every time I got so many hot spots around me that it's hard to
Separate?
it's hard to isolate, and I may
wow.
just be pulling little
Like fragments?
guys out.
Yeah.
But then see, I've got another hot
Oh my
spot over
gosh.
here that keeps.
Hey, this is awesome.
But you got a nice spot. Just keep going. You're getting some good stuff out of it. Well, it's hard to know when I'm pulling stuff out. Okay, so this area up here, well, it's also very close to that hole. Seems like I've got something in there. Yeah. Gosh. I gotta get away from here. Oh, come on. How is that possible? There it is. There it is. It's another kind of roundish specimen. It's a lighter color. Well, it's kind of hard till I wash it off, but some interesting looking specimens coming out of here. And that one that Phil found looked very different. So this is very promising. Just wish we could get a bigger piece. There's some. Not very hot, whatever it is. Not very hot. Oops. There it is. Another one of the little guys. It's interesting how these little guys are all collected together like this, like they were part of a pod. Makes you wonder whether they collected here or whether they actually grew here. Yeah, I pulled something out of there. Oh yeah, this one seems promising. Could also be just this little guy here. No. There it is. Okay. So this is a kind of a still pretty small, but it's probably about the same size as my largest one there. Okay, one more for the back pocket. I emptied out my pocket earlier from that other hole. Yeah, that's all right. They've got plenty of room. Interesting. This looks like a piece of what Phil was finding up there. It's kind of a translucent, lighter color. Interesting. All right, have we got anything else in this little... Whoops. I think that's just being... It's still a hot hole, but I think there's still stuff in here all over the place. I mean, look at that. I think it's just full of these little specimens. But I've got to draw the line someplace and see what else we can find out here. In fact, I'll go up here and check on Phil. So how many pieces have you found?
Probably 4.
Uh-huh.
Hopefully I got one in my hand right now.
Nope. Oh yeah. What's the temp of your hole sound like now? Stick the probe down in the hole there. Let's see. It's gotten a lot quieter.
Really?
Yeah.
I wonder if maybe it's a
so
collection of loose.
Oh yeah, it's all those little pieces added together.
Yeah.
All right. We'll take a closer look at them a little bit later. So Andre came up to join Phil and me at this spot where we think we're in the pegmatite, and these crystals formed in these pods, because they're just all grouped together and they're all similar in size and all. But Andre has found a particularly hot spot and very localized, so we're hoping that he's going to find a big honker in there. We'll see what he's going to find. So you've got a good staging area right there. I wouldn't be surprised if you find something right under the surface there.
Yeah,
it was getting, what is it now?
2400.
Still just 24. Okay, I think you finally pulled something out of this hole. Ooh, that's a big one.
Yeah, that's it.
That's it. Let me get a... Yeah, that's what we've been looking for. That's a nice one.
3700.
That's what we've been looking for. So we know they're out here.
A big one. Yeah, nice.
All right.
So they are out there.
So let's...
And I think there is more. Look at this.
Yeah, you may be into a bigger pod.
The activity dropped, but there is more.
So we're finding all kinds of hot spots up here. And Phil's over there still working on his original hole. He's not ready to give up on it. And I found a spot that looks promising. Maybe I'll pull out a big specimen like what Andre found over there. But what's interesting is that what we're getting into is this real crumbly matrix. So I'm thinking that's where these crystals are forming, right here in this matrix. And they form in pods. And that's what we're digging in, these concentrated pods of crystals. There it is. All right, so this is a nice size.
Yeah.
Not as big as Andre's, but it's
Pretty big.
it's how about, I don't know, but it's a lot bigger than the other specimens that I have. Okay, that's nice to know that there's some bigger specimens out here. Ooh, stuck everything in my back pocket here. Yeah, I got a medium-sized one here. Have you got something? Check this one out. Oh, yeah, this has got some black glassy on it. This looks more like Samarsky, doesn't it?
Yes,
It's got the real shiny black
exactly.
fracture.
But I didn't fracture it. That's how it was.
Yeah, very nice.
Interesting. But if you look, actually, Chad, look at the weather side. Look at the weather side. It looks like the ones that you're finding.
Yeah, these kind of striations. Let me get a close up of that.
Kuchi mama.
Hey, let me see. Hold on. Let me twirl it around a little bit. Twirl it around. Turn it. Turn it. There we go. Okay. So we're still making our way down this road. We got Phil at that end and Andre somewhere down there. And I found another hot spot. This one is more up in the bank. And it's pretty darn hot. So let me see what I can find here. So I don't think it should take me too long to find this because the bank is really soft and moist, easy to dig. Let's just see what it sounds like. Could be a nice specimen. Meanwhile, Andre's really found the nicest specimen so far, and including one big one that definitely looks like some marskite to me because it's got a really shiny black surface to it. So it'll be interesting to compare what we're finding, see if they all turn out to be some marskite. It'd be nice if there was something else in here as well. All right, let's see what we got. We moved it. Yeah, it's got to be a pretty good size, huh? Oh yeah. Which one is it? Oops. There it is. All right. Well, now we're getting into the larger size crystals that we have found out here. It's a big black guy. Looks like it's got pretty good crystal form to it. I don't see any fracture on it. So this is probably a complete crystal. I'll go wash this off. Not too far from the creek down here. I'll go wash this off, see what it looks like. So this is what I just found in the bank. It looks a lot like the other specimens we're finding up here, just on a larger scale. This one is wicked hot. So now we know that we probably shouldn't waste a lot of time on smaller signals, except just to mark them. And look for these big signals, because this was a big honker
Can I
signal.
check how loud it is?
Yeah, you can check how loud it is.
Oh my gosh, okay.
Yeah.
So over here is pretty weak, but
Yeah, I wouldn't bother with those weak signals. So we're still finding stuff in this road. There's a lot of stuff in the road and in the ravines next to it. So I decided to check out above the road and see if this pegmatite extends up here. And I think that it does, because here is quite a nice localized hotspot. Sounds like a big honker. So let's see what, oh, maybe this is it. That's it right there, right on the surface. Right on the surface. So how in the world did this little specimen get up here on the bank unless it washed downhill? Interesting. So we've decided to call it a day, even though it's early, but it's getting awfully hot. So we just put out our haul on the pad here. Let me see if I can get close to it. So I guess these are Phil's haul is on the far right, right?
Right.
And then this is Andre's. And this one actually looks like you can definitely see the black shiny.
yeah, vitreous.
Yeah, showing that that's almost certainly some marskite. And then I think that Andre got a similar one too. That's got a nice fracture that shows. These are probably all some marskites. And this one here that I found is particularly interesting because when you look close, you actually see that it's a lot of little crystals, probably some marskite crystals, all glommed together and intergrown with quartz. So this large specimen is actually a bunch of little specimens, it looks like to me. So that's probably one of the more interesting specimens. And so this isn't a bad haul for just one morning at a new site. And I'm sure we'll be coming back here and doing some more surveying, because we just barely scratched the surface here, literally.
Yeah, you could detected them while driving.
Yeah.
And this is Phil's first time to be out prospecting, so he had quite good luck with his gamma dog, and we'll be back for some more fun another time.
Yeah.
So Andre and I are back here at Dollar Bill, and he's down the hill and seems to have hit a pretty good spot. That sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
You gonna dig that one?
I'll try to do that one.
So we were here last weekend with another friend, Phil, and had some pretty good luck for our first time at this locality. So I think it's going to be pretty promising. Seem to be digging right here in the pegmatite. This is just the quartz, the natural quartz that was developed right here. Oh, just discovered a couple of rocks I'd forgotten about, but they're not much. I'll leave those to some other collector. They probably came from New Mexico. So let's see. Yeah, this is not the easiest digging right here in the quartz. It's very weathered and broken up, but it's still, everything just wedged together. And what we discovered last time we were digging right here was that we'd start digging a spot that seemed like it's one very localized specimen, and it would turn out to be a bunch of little crystals all in the same spot. So we were actually finding little pods of crystals. And when I analyzed them this past week, turns out that they were either samarskite or euxenite, but then there were some other weird ones in there that had a bunch of zirconium and even manganese and iron. Looks like it could be the makings of columbite or zircons. There seems to be a lot of interesting chemistry going on out here. Okay. I think I may have moved it. There we go. seem to keep moving it. There it is. Okay. This is a nice little specimen. Actually looks like it's got some crystal form to it. Pretty black. Probably a samarskite. Yeah, this looks like it could be a terminated crystal. Very nice little guy. So Andre's working a hot spot down the road there, and I've got another pretty good prospect right here. It's right in the running creek. So, but I suspect it's going to be real easy to dig in here. All I have to do is move it. Yep, I moved it already. Okay, so let's try to keep my gloves from getting too wet. I see somewhere in this slush. Okay, so it's right over here on this side. Huh. Well, it's still over here. Okay, where is it? There it is. It's a big black thing. Looks like it's a complete crystal. Yeah, that's nice. Have you pulled anything out yet?
From this hole? No.
Okay.
It's still.
You may be getting into one of those pods.
Yeah. It's kind of rewarding though. Every few scoops, the CPS jumps up. So
you're getting closer.
Just a matter of time until I get to it. And there is some of that crumbly matrix here.
Yeah, you're right. I can tell you're right into the pegmatite.
Yeah.
So you're either into I would bet that you're into a pod and you start finding little crystals.
We'll see. Let's see.
Does the direction seem to change any? Yeah. So you've pulled something out.
Something came out.
Okay, let's see what it is. Here comes somebody, but is that it? In your hand?
Yeah, one of those guys. No? It must have been a small crystal then.
Okay, so you got a little crystal.
Yeah.
Let me pick it up. So this is what I was finding in those little pods, and there's probably another one in there.
Yeah, there is actually something.
Yeah, so you're into a pod of these little crystals, and you just keep digging and digging, and you keep pulling these little guys out. Here you go. So it's just real difficult to scan in here. The grass is so thick, full of briars. So last week, I actually found a specimen right on the surface, on the slope, right above the road, but it was just like right at the top of the ridge of the road. So I wanted to come back and check up the hill here. It's really hard to scan this because it's so covered with vegetation. It's hard to get the probe close enough to the ground, but here's a bare spot, and I got a little hit, so let me see if I can pull anything out of here. Okay, what we got here? I think I see it. Here it is. Yeah, that's it. A nice little black nodule. Oh, that's my backpack. So while I was up the hill fighting cat's claws and finding out how far up the hill this pegmatite goes, Andre was actually down here finding some nice specimens. Tell me what you found there, Andre.
So it was pretty hot already on the surface, and it was right in the matrix, in the rock. I had to break the matrix, and here are the pieces that came, and that piece was surrounded by them. So I think it came from right here.
How about that?
See that?
Okay, let me get a close up over here. So this is probably one of the nicer pieces we've gotten out of here, because it's actually got some twinning, and looks like a nice terminated crystal. We'll have to XRF this when we get home.
If we look here, we might even find how it fit something like that. It was in there.
Huh. Yeah, we're definitely digging right here in the peg.
So yeah, I mean, you can see the quartz. It's actually nice crystal quartz, and then it changes its structure, but that piece was right inside. So yeah, that's it. It's a good size. And good. It has some striations. I don't know what these are, but yeah, and it is fairly hot.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So there's the hole I was just digging down there in that pod of little crystals. I may have found myself another one, but you know, it starts off very localized, so it's hard to differentiate from a single specimen. These pods, little tight pods of little crystals. So you gotta dig them. Although as you learn your area, you learn where the pods are, and might consider just marking them and coming back later if you run out of other places to dig. I think I moved it. Yeah, I moved it. There it is. Okay. It's just a nice little guy. Okay, so this one's right next to the spot where I just pulled out that little crystal. And there's a pretty weak signal on the surface, and I've dug a couple of inches now. It seems to be getting stronger. Now this is down in the little ravine next to the road where the water runs. So I expect it to be an alluvial deposit. And it's actually really soft dirt to dig in. So I expect to move it pretty quickly. Ooh, unless it's a really big one and it's really deep. Oh yeah, that sounds good. That's when the patience pays off, because it took me a while to localize this little guy because the signal was so weak on the surface. Oops, I moved it. All right.
All good.
There it is. Okay. I need to wash this off, but it's definitely black glassy. Seems pretty good. I've got Andre over there digging one for himself. Let me see if I can reset my... What does yours sound like, Andre?
Sounds good.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's see if we can dig up two specimens at the same time.
Localize. And I'm getting that familiar matrix.
Here it is. Okay. Looks like I won the race. Yeah, this is a nice little crystal. So I keep checking uphill from the road, and sometimes I find things up here. So I know this peg extends away up the hill here. I don't know how far it goes, but it's super hard to find stuff because of all the vegetation. But This one sounds like it may be right below the surface. Let me just see. Yep, I moved it already. I moved it. Here it is. Another one of these nice little terminated crystals. Well, I came down into this main wash and I immediately started getting hits, and I've dug a couple of holes. There's one there. There's another one there actually in the water. And I was able to pull up the little crystals. It looks like to me there are a lot of little crystals in here. And I don't know, here's one it's actually under about 6 inches of water. So I'm gonna see if I can get my hand down there and grab it. I'll let you know what I find. All right, this looks like the evil twin brother of that other one. It's a conglomerate. It's actually a little pod of samarskite crystals that didn't separate completely from their quartz matrix, and you can see it's just wicked hot. Whoops. And I found that under, oh, it was way down here in this water, about 6 inches, I would say. But that's a pretty cool find. So this is the haul for today. And it's quite good for, I don't know how long we've been here. About 6 hours, 7 hours?
6 hours.
Yeah. So we found some nice pieces today. I'll start with the biggest one. This one is almost identical to the one I found last week. It's this cluster of crystals in quartz. It's uncanny how similar it is. And I'm going to save that one for last. There's some crystals in here with good form. You can see some terminated crystals here, but by far the best one is this one here that Andre found, and it's got really nice crystal form with some fully terminated and showing some twinning. Let's turn around this way. Yeah, showing some twinning, and also that's a very nice specimen. Now, we found a lot of these small ones in these pods where we start digging a hot spot, and it turns out to be just a bunch of little crystals. And so that's kind of typical of this area, but occasionally you'll find a few nice specimens. Now, the weirdest one, Andre, can you grab these two?
Yeah, so these, and we never dug the same hole, so these are actually, I think, I don't know, you were able to piece them together, but they,
when I saw them next to each other, I said, you know, these look like they belong together, and I started playing around with them, and
yeah, I
found that they fit together like a puzzle.
Right.
So somehow we found these two pieces independently.
Yeah, in two different holes, really.
Let me see.
I don't know if I can hold the phone if you can.
Okay, you hold the phone. So this is what it looks like when it's put together, and it's a really nice fully terminated crystal. Well, this one's got a fracture over here, but still, that is really freakish that we would independently. I mean, I found rocks before that were broken, and I put them back together, and I've even found them in different holes. But for two different people to find two halves of the same specimen is really bizarre. So this is the spot where we've found a lot of specimens here in the road, and today we're going to work our way up the wash, see how far they go. So we found a place where the path has got a little bit easier to walk. It's right above the wash.
Segments of maybe path.
So we found our first hot spot here above the wash along this path. So this looks like signs of a pegmatite. Got quartz and mica sticking out here. Phil's got himself another hot spot.
Yeah. There's a few here. Over here too. No?
So this turned out to be a nice big one.
Big one.
Yeah, you got another hot spot.
Yeah. Beautiful view. Cool morning. Howling dog.
So I think I have a little one too. Yeah, this is starting to be fun up here on the bank. This is a good ways. So I'm down in the actual wash again, and not surprisingly, there are some hot spots down here. This is a little bit further than Phil went last time. So
Yeah, there's one over here.
we found two right next to each other. We're gonna do dueling digs here. So Phil and I are walking up the wash again, and we're spending more time on the side of the wash. Rather, we know what we find inside the wash, but this one is right above the wash, and I'm going to just try to dig it out of here and see if I can. Seems like it ought to be pretty easy, unless it's lodged way up there. Let's see. Yeah, I'm gonna have to reset the squelch here to, let me set the squelch like right here so that I can try to get some direction on it. It seems to be back there wedged. Okay, so I pulled out the first little crystal. I'm nearly certain this is a pod of these little crystals like we were finding on the last trip. And once I pull out one of these little crystals, I probably don't want to spend any more time on this hot hole. So my patience has bore some fruit, because this appears to be a pod, but these are the biggest crystals I've ever seen coming out of a pod. So I guess I'll keep digging this hole. Okay, so I've been digging here for a while in these pods, and here's the first one I started, and it's wicked hot, and this one is wicked hot as well. Not quite as hot, and there's no doubt there are a lot of specimens under there, but at this point I know that we're just talking about a pod of little crystals, and there may be a few bigger ones in there, but think I want to check out the upper wash. Meanwhile, Phil is over here digging in the creek and finding I think you're into a pod, right?
Yes, there's a small pile right there that I found.
How many total you think?
I don't know, maybe 3. This is 4 or 5 maybe.
Here once again I'm in the creek bed. I've been looking uphill, up the banks, and haven't found anything except dispersed radiation. But here I've got a really hot spot. I think this is going to yield a specimen. And then there's another one up there in the corner where I've put a cairn. I think it's more likely to be a pod. So this turned out to be just a pod of little crystals. So I'm going to move on. So right next to that, well, maybe 10 feet away from that other pod, I found another pod that it's just wicked hot, but it's just full of these little crystals. So just a few feet away from those other spots, I actually found a nice specimen, and the hole that it came out of is a lot quieter now. This is a really hot spot. So this is the first piece to come out of there, but the hole is still plenty hot. Okay, this is another extremely hot hole, but the first crystal little thing I pulled out of it will be the last, because I'm not going to spend any more time.
But they're all small, so if you wanna, I'm happy to. Something's in here.
So I already pulled a marble size one out of this really hot hole. I'll see if I can get anything else out of it.
As soon as I put it away.
Yeah, that's the way it is.
Yeah.
So we have found so many hot spots in this little section. This one is one of the hotter ones. Once again, just a little crystal out of this wicked hot hole. So this is a side wash that we decided to walk down to get back to the main wash. So I found one single crystal up here on the bank, a good ways above the wash. So this is the haul from this morning. Okay, now we're going to walk down the wash from the car, and we've already getting some hits right in here. So here's another little pod of these little crystals. So we're hitting hot spots right and left on this lower portion of the wash. Okay, this is This is a pretty big one here. And there's something else in the hole. Okay, so this one took some digging, but it was worth it because it's a nice big specimen, and there's more of them, some smaller pieces in there as well. This one's yielding a bunch of little crystals. So this one's pretty close to our car. Probably the last one I find today. So sure enough, we couldn't get back to the car without finding another screamer here. Okay, right here was one medium-sized one. We're trying to get our way back to the car without finding more specimens. There we go. This is the afternoon haul. So this is our starting point. This time we're going to try to pick up where we left off over there in the wash on the last trip. So this is on top of a knoll, and we're getting some elevated readings here. So maybe we're on top of a pegmatite. Okay, this is just got down into the creek here, and got my first nice little hit right here on the edge. I think these are one of these pods of little crystals, but the first one I pulled out is a pretty nice little crystal. This looks like one of those conglomerates out of a hole just a few feet away from that first one. So this is another pretty nice one. I just dug out of the hole just about maybe 15 feet above the first hole that I dug here. So the plan is just to work our way up the wash and maybe just mark the hot spots, but then try to see if we can get to a point where we don't have any more hot spots. So Phil and I just keep hitting these hot spots that turn out to be pods of little crystals, and really not even find anything visible. There's just some wicked hot spots up here, just so many of them. We're just gonna keep walking and see if we can figure out where these stop. So this one, the first one, I felt like it was worthwhile digging, and this is a pretty nice one, and there's more in that hole. This is another nice little one from the same hole. So Phil is into a nice little pod.
Hi. Yeah.
It's a little furry critter here, fixing to get wet. This one was right here in the creek. I saw it on the bottom. I just picked it out. So this is just another one of these wicked hot holes. Let me see if I can get a picture here. Okay, this one may be the biggest specimen that I have found out here. It seems to be one crystal. Well, I pulled two more little ones out of the hole. Evidently you can have a big crystal go right next to these little ones. This is another nice little specimen. And there's something else in that hole, but I'm going to move on. So this is the haul from this morning. From walking as far up the wash as we could before we finally just ran out of water and energy and had to come back for lunch. And really nothing surprising. We kept hitting all these little pods of little crystals. Probably the most interesting one is this big honker specimen that Phil found a good ways up the hill. This wasn't anywhere close to the wash. So that's very interesting. It looks like a one solid samarskite crystal. So that's quite a nice haul for one morning and the two of us. This is a nice pin cushion. So this is us eating a long time ago. There we go. So we've been checking out the creek at the next crossing, which is about 2 miles down from where we had lunch. And so far I haven't not detected a localized hotspot. And this is our short afternoon haul. Phil had some great luck in the morning finding some big ones, and I had some better luck this afternoon finding some big ones. This one's not quite as big as the one he found, but it's a nice size, and there are a couple more that are comparable to it. So this is pretty good for what, about 3 hours work in the afternoon, something like that. So it's another fine outing here at Dollar Bill with my friend Phil, and we'll be back because the weather is great this time of year, and we're just discovering more and more things about this interesting locality. So Phil and I have come out this spectacular October morning. It's in the 50s, real comfortable, and we've come to this spot where we have previously found a lot of specimens up on this road here. And interestingly enough, on this side we haven't found anything, so we decided to check down here in this wash coming off this road, and Phil has found a nice spot, probably going to yield hopefully a piece or more. And I found a couple of other spots that look promising, so let me see what we can find here. So my plan for today was to kind of investigate more of these washes, and try to decipher where these specimens are coming from and where they're going. So this is the entrance to this wash is a good place to start. Well, I let my gloves get wet, and they've gotten really stiff, so it can be a little hard to work with. But here's this spot that looks pretty localized. Looks pretty localized. Let's see if I have as much luck as Phil at finding our first specimen this morning. Fortunately, it's behind this big bunch of grass, which is kind of annoying. Has the activity dropped over there after pulling out that one specimen?
Well, there's more.
There's more. Yep. That's probably a good spot for specimens to collect as they wash down this road and into the wash. They make the turn into the wash and they end up just dropping right there and staying. Let's see if we've moved it yet. Yep, we already moved it. Nice. Very nice, easy find. That's what I like. That's what I like. Okay, let's just see. Where is it? There he is. Okay, not quite as big as Phil's, but he's pretty hot. So next to this same knoll of grass, there's another pretty good signal. Let's see. And the same problem with this grass sticking me in the eye. Fortunately, the digging here is just in soft, wet sand. So I can't complain too much. Seems to be straight down here. So far what we found out here seem to be samarskite and probably euxenite as well. But if you find, especially if you find euxenite, you can very easily start finding all kinds of other minerals that are associated with it. You'd be curious to find a monosite out here, or a columbite. You just never know what you're going to find once you start finding these types of minerals. Okay, let's see. I think I've already pulled something out here. Okay.
Having beachfront prospecting.
What was that?
Beachfront prospecting.
Oh yeah. Okay. There it is. Another one of these little black guys. Looks like a pretty nice crystal. Okay. And once again, seems like there's something else in there. Just not sure that this is worth. There it is. Just a little guy. Okay. I'm just going to assume this hole is full of these little guys. And move on to try to find something a little bit more spectacular. So just a few feet above that spot where I was digging, fruitlessly, I think I found a more promising spot here. Seems to be a little hotter. Localized. So maybe it's just one bigger specimen. Oh, there, we finally got one. Finally got one. There it is. Okay, this is what I was looking for. It's a nice nodule. Nice solid crystal. there's still something down here. But I think I'll move on, maybe come back to it. Okay, literally on the other side of this wash, from where I found that other specimen, I found another hot spot right in the water. I keep checking up on the banks too, to test out the theory of whether these things could be washing in from the sides, but the fact that we keep finding them right in the wash itself tells me they've got to be washing from downstream, or upstream rather. Did you find the hot spot? All right, so this looks like that'll be down here in the crevices. There's a bunch of big rocks down here. It doesn't look like there's much down here, but boy, there's just not much down here. Not much room for a specimen that strong. This is underneath. It's a pretty clean hole. Fortunately, the water's not really running, so it doesn't clear out. It's real cloudy, hard to see what's going on, but there's just not much more than a crevice here for things to collect. Say where it is though. Let's see. There it is. Okay. So it's just a little guy. Where's the camera? There we go. It's just a little guy, but pretty darn hot. Oh, there we go. There's a bunch of crystals in this little honey, what I call a honey pot. Once I find more than 2 or 3 crystals, that's what I call a honey pot. Geologists might call it an alluvial placer. So I'm gonna find this one little guy, and then I'll probably just assume that the rest of them in this hole are similar. So once again, we're right next to the car where the wash crosses the road, and there's just all kinds of hot spots down this creek. So I'm thinking that this wash must be getting its specimens from the road up there where we were digging the last couple of trips. And let me see what I've got here. Maybe give it the boot test. It's a lot of rocks down there. Yeah, probably right here below the surface. Yeah, let me see here. Almost seems like it's gonna be right here on the surface, but probably have to get out my digging tool. Yeah. I think there are several spots in here. I think Phil has found something downstream where I found that real nice specimen, but I also found a bunch of pods with little crystals. And that may be what this is, but boy, it sure seems like. Let's see. Oh boy, it sure seems like there's more than one specimen in here, doesn't it? Okay, this is a nice quiet spot. Yeah, I think there's more than one specimen in this little area. Oh yeah, I think I'm gonna pull this one out pretty quick. Because I'm moving a lot of sand and gravel here. There we go. As usual, there's more than one of them down there. Let's see. Come on. This is a quiet spot. Wow. I thought it was a quiet spot. Okay, well, there's a bunch of specimens right around here. Okay. So there's some little crystal in my hand. It's really little. Not sure it's worth fishing out here. There it is. Okay, so this is just a little guy. But there's either a bunch more like him, or there's a big one down there. But this one over here looks promising as well. Let's not give up on that hole yet. Boy, there's just hot spots all around here. There we go. Well, there's more than one in here. Whew. Lot of little crystals this morning. Still waiting for that nice big specimen. There he is. Nice little marble size nodule. And there's, okay, so that seems to be worth digging around a little bit more. I'm probably picking up my back pocket here. I think I've moved it. And there's something else down there as well. I think that's it right there. Yep. Another one of these little guys. I recognize these little guys as probably being part of some euxinite pod at some point, and then washing out. It's a nice little crystal, but it's pretty small. Well, Phil is now out of sight downstream someplace. And I've got to figure out where I can find that next big specimen. So this is one of these cool little critters that was swimming around in the water. It's very long. When it's stretched out, it's about a foot long, and I thought it was just a kind of a thin root washing down the river, but it's some sort of got a triangular head to it. I forget the name of these things, but if you cut them in two, they just grow another head. But pretty cool little guy. So Phil's right up the wash, digging one hot spot, and I came down, and I seem to have more luck finding hot spots in the water than on the side. This one looks like it's worth digging around in. So I should be able to just move stuff over here. And detect when I've moved it. Oh, I think I've moved it. Yeah, I think that I've moved it. Oops, that was quick. Now there's more than one. There's more than one, which is often the case. This one looks suspicious. That's it. Okay. Yeah, one of these typical little black crystals. And there appeared to have moved another one in here. Well, it's very interesting. Both Phil and I have had the same experience. We find lots of hot spots here in this wash. And I was thinking earlier that it was because these crystals, most of them tiny, are just collecting in the same spots. But now I'm beginning to revise my theory to think we're right in the pegmatite here, and these are actually pods of crystals. And every time I think, man, I found a nice localized hot spot. See, that just seems like it's got to be a screamer. Okay. And I'll start digging and digging and digging. And just keep pulling out little crystals. This just seems like it's got to be a screamer. Pretty quiet over here. So it just seems like it's got to be something right. And this gravel under here. But then gradually it'll get harder and harder to dig. Got to be just right there. It's so localized. Let's see. Get my shovel here. And I can see Phil down there working another hot spot. Seems like it's right over here. gotta move it pretty soon. Oh, I think I have moved it. There we go. And there's more. There's more here. Let's use this nice little flat rock here. Ooh, that looks suspicious. Yep. That's a nice big piece. Probably the largest or second largest that I've found today. It looks like a solid crystal. I'll go ahead and store these little pieces here. Before I start chasing my tail, because I've got hot rocks in my pocket. Still seems like there's some stuff down there, but I may have got the screamer. I think I've got another one. So this is every one of these lot holes has a bunch of specimens in it. Seems like there's got to be at least one more screamer in there. But there's not a lot of gravel. It's like just solid rock. I think I've pulled something else out of there. Oh yeah. I pulled one more little screamer out of there. At least one. one of these guys here. There we go. So, once again, there's just a bunch of these little black crystals in there. Tells me that I've probably got into another pod. Whew. Pretty amazing. Never seen another site quite like this. It's a lot of hot rocks. Well, I'm thinking that we probably should move on to another spot, although last time I did find one big nice specimen down here, but this is a lot of work to pull up all these little crystals. I'm not complaining though. This is a gorgeous day to be outside doing anything. So right down there was where I found those two little specimens, and right up the bank a little ways. I think I found another promising spot here. Let's see what a boot does to it. Yeah, I think that's worth digging. Should be able to. Okay, I'll set the squelch over here. And move some of this dirt out of the way. So I can move some of this dirt here. And this looks like I should have moved it by now. Yep. That one sounds like a pretty good one. Let's see. See if I can just spot that one, because that sounds like. No. There it is. Okay, well, it's not huge, but it's not bad. Looks like a solid crystal. There's probably other stuff in here as well. You just never find a single specimen out here. It's just really weird. So we're almost back to the car, just about giving up on finding a monster today. But I've been digging into this hole for, I don't know, 15 or 20 minutes. It's just all sand coming out of here. And finally I had to reach my hand under there to dig this out from underneath the ledge. And let me find a spot where I can spread this out, but I think it's going to be a nice one. Unless that's it. That's it right there. Okay.
Wow.
That's the monster I've been looking for today. Let me wash it off here. Yep. That one made the trip.
Wow. The size of your, looks like an egg.
Yeah. All right. Finally something more than a tiny little crystal. And there's something else under there too. Hold on to that for a second. Let me put the probe back down in there. Yeah, there's something else down there, but that's the hot one. All right. Well, let's call it a day. We'll go spread out our specimens for the day. So this is the haul for today. And what I would say, the ones on the left are the ones that Phil found. Phil found, you know, looks like twice as many as I did overall. And the amazing thing is he's using this plastic dog that I sell on eBay that's not, theoretically not as sensitive as my big sodium iodide crystal dog. But you can see that that doesn't really keep you from finding specimens, because we're looking in the same areas during the same time, and I think this proves that those plastic dogs are just as good and weigh a lot less than what I carry around.
They still bark.
And they still bark. And until the very end, Phil would have had the biggest pieces. Where'd you find this one?
Oh gosh. I think it was in that wash where
Down
we first
below?
stopped.
Yeah.
That's one of the initial ones.
And some nice big specimens, plus a lot of these little ones. I think he spent a lot more time digging out these little ones. I would give up on that hole. As soon as I pull out one or two of these little ones, I would just give up, because I knew that's all that was going to come out. You never found anything, any big specimen in a hole where you had little ones coming out, right?
No.
I didn't either. Yeah. So, and of course, I spent all my day digging in little holes there. You know, I found a couple of single specimens, but then at the very end,
Huge.
At the very end, I found this one, and this is one of these specimens like that I found before. I found at least two others like this, and it's a conglomerate of samarskite crystals and quartz, intergrown with quartz. And you can see these rectangular samarskite crystals. I assume they're samarskite, but that's a real nice find right at the tail end of the day. This made my whole trip. So anyway,
It's like a golf ball.
it's like a golf ball. I won't use it as a golf ball, but this has been a great trip. Another nice outing here at Dollar Bill.
So beautiful.
And yeah, it's a great place. We'll be back. This is the first hot spot that we've found up here above the wash. You guys stand right there, don't move, because I want to sort of get y'all in the background here. Y'all are going to be a little fuzzy, but that's okay. Here we go. That's the rock that came out of this hole, and it's a nice little size. So Warren's improving his technique with the scintillator.
Well, I thought we had a nice garnet.
So of all the pieces we've been pulling out of this hole, with the help of Warren and Ron, this one's a pretty nice one. I think I'll hang on to it. I think that Ron and Warren have caught the bug.
Oh, there you go. Maybe that whole thing is it. That'd be nice.
Okay, this one was stuck in a crevice. You found one?
Oh, it's a biggie.
Oh, not too bad. This is right next to the road, down as I emerged from the wash, the loop wash. So these are the ones we found after lunch here in this little loop, from one end of the loop to the other, right next to the road. So Phil and I are starting out on our survey of this wash because we're hoping to find the origins of these radioactive specimens that we've been finding. We're going to take advantage of this wonderful winter weather that we've had. So we are following the ridge upstream before we go down into the wash, and then at some point we'll get down into the wash. So we're definitely into a lot of the hot spots that we were in last time here. And now we're at a fork, and behind Phil is the other fork of this creek, and we're going to walk up both sides and make sure or see if there are hot spots up both sides. So the other fork, I'll call it the left fork, definitely had hot spots, and now we're checking out the right fork, and it's got hot spots, so that's just more data points. Okay, so here in this east fork or right fork, when you're looking up the creek, we're finding these little pieces that are very similar to the ones we found in the past. And so I think we're gonna move on up. We could probably move on up either side. So we're continuing to get hits up this side. So Phil, why don't you go up that other fork just a little ways and see if you get hits up there. Okay. So we've got another fork, and Phil's going to go up the east fork, and I'm going to go up the west fork. What was that?
I got one just right off the branch.
Okay. So I've walked up this little left or west branch, and I'm finding some dispersed hot spots, but so far nothing really localized or wickedly hot. This one is right in the grass, right next to the creek. This one looks like I could dig it up with my boots. I'm gonna try a boot test here. Yeah, I moved this one onto the side here. And I think Phil has found something over there. No doubt that there's going to be a lot more in here, but this one's got a little bit more crystal structure to it. Very nice. So this is another boot test. Just right up here on the bank Let me see. I'm gonna try my boot, see if I can get this out of here.
Oh my god.
Yeah, that's one of the bigger ones, and this one looks like it's a solid crystal.
That might be the biggest I've seen.
Yeah.
Oh my.
I think I'm into a pod of relatively small ones. The hole's down below, and then on the rock above are two little ones on the right and two little ones on the left. The ones on the left are radioactive. So I've pulled several crystals out of this pod. I'm sure it's just full of these smallish sized crystals. The ones on the right are radioactive, the three, and then the two on the left are not radioactive, but I'm going to test them and see if they're anywhere similar. So I've been walking up this other further east fork. We keep hitting these little forks, and this one doesn't seem to have any localized hot spots that I'm finding, but Phil is telling me on the left fork that he took that he's definitely finding hot spots, so I'll go back and find them. Found another loose specimen here, just in the sand next to the creek, closer to where Phil is. Definitely a lot more hot spots. So what are you finding over there, Phil?
I wonder if it's inside the rock.
Ah, I'll come check it out. So you're definitely into a pod over here. How many pieces have you pulled out?
So far, oh gosh, I lost it again. 1, 2, 3, and then 4.
4, okay.
Here.
Trying to get out of the sun here.
I thought this was in the rock, but there's just a groove in the stone,
Uh-huh.
and they're collected there.
Right. Well, I thought this was going to be a pod as well,
You got a big one?
but you know, it's a pretty good size single specimen.
Yeah.
So, found a nice little crystal up here. There's been a bunch of hot spots, but I haven't bothered to dig them until now because this one was in a crevice in the rock, and it was just kind of interesting. So Phil, okay, so Phil is heading on up to see if it's possible to go up further because we're still getting hot spots. So this is another single specimen that I found up here in the grass. Okay, this is one of these little conglomerates down in a crevice. So this is once again off to the side in the grass, but it seems to be in a pod because there's more down there. And actually, coming out of that same hole was just another single piece about the same size. And here's another hot spot close by, right up here in the real sandy area. Maybe able to get it with my boot. And this turned out to be a nice sized little specimen just buried there in the sand. a good ways up the bank. So this is a big hit, and you can see it's way up the bank here. It's above those two spots where I found the last two specimens, so this is interesting. So this one turns out to have some pretty nice crystal structure. It's way above the creek down there. So this one is a little further downstream, but about the same height, same distance from the creek, and it's another hot one. So this has got to be one of the nicer single crystals I've gotten out here. Look how long and terminated that is. This is just a little one, pretty close to the creek down here. So Phil came back, and meanwhile we're eating some tangerines, and I found a nice little guy here. So I got another hit pretty close to that other hole, about 10 feet away. So this is just another small individual specimen. So this one we found on the way back, and it's got some interesting red spots on it.
I think I found a pod.
Really? Yeah,
Take some time and work it up.
this may be a pod right here. So I've pulled 4 little crystals out of this obvious pod. There's a lot of them in there, but we're getting hungry. We're going home for lunch. This is nothing but a pod of little crystals. I haven't found one yet, but it's... These are the specimens that we collected today. Phil's on the left and mine on the right. And we got some really big specimens today and some very interesting ones as well.